You think our social services are overwhelmed now? Get out your wallets, because there is about to be a generation of babies born where moms won't have the means to feed, clothe, and care for them. On top of that, most people will feel an absolute obligation to that baby they didn't want, and then after a few bad years, they'll give up the child to the state when it's past an easily adoptable age. So the child will most likely have an utterly horrible life. They won't be adopted easily. Do conservatives adopt these older hard-to-home kids in huge numbers? Absolutely not. They talk a big game, but never do anything meaningful when it comes to adoption. So they love making a problem exceptionally worse and then doing absolutely nothing about it, and then complain about the issues that arise from that problem. So typical conservative game plan. My sister's hospital bill after having a kid with no insurance was $90,000. Women will now be forced into medical debt for kids they don't want, possibly from sex they never wanted to have. We are heading down a very bad and long road. The next few years will be really bad. Debt goes up, more kids in the system, more back alley abortions. Fun fact: I recently found the receipt for my non-insured hospital birth in 1980. It was $850. I couldn't believe it. Rich women will take a weekend trip to London and come back not pregnant anymore. Poor people are probably going to have to order Canadian pills to terminate their own pregnancies, and if they get caught, it'll be like the early weed laws where judges were handing out life sentences for having a joint. Amazon announced it will pay for travel for employees to get abortions. Small win. This will backfire terribly and not solve a fucking thing. Mexico recently decriminalized abortion. Coincidence? I think not. Now just wait for Mexican abortion clinics geared towards U.S. citizens appearing all across Mexican border. Child support payments better start at conception then. Fetuses need to be counted for census purposes as well. Child tax credits would need to start at conception. SNAP, WIC as well, paid back retroactively. Domestic abuses that induce a miscarriage would need to be charged with at least first-degree murder. The foster care system is proof the government doesn't care about unwanted children yet want to force more to be born. It's all politics, though. Guarantee if any of them ever got in a sticky situation, illegal or not, an abortion will be had available. Our healthcare system is also the same. Any child born with any health needs in minimum wage family is fucked. People will still find ways to get abortions. Anecdote time. I work in digital marketing, and began my career setting up and running search engine marketing campaigns for every kind of small business under the sun. A few of my clients were new abortion clinics in the American South. Researching what keywords to use, based on their relevancy to whatever we're advertising, along with their traffic estimates, is one aspect of setting up these campaigns. I found that even in these relatively rural areas, keywords related to DIY abortions were by and large the most common, with a considerable amount of traffic as well. Child abuse will skyrocket. We'll have exponentially more unwanted kids, and even less resources for them than are available now. Which is none. A lot of women will be forced to raise babies that look like they're rapists. And the abortions some women are able to get will be harmful or deadly. What a bunch of motherfucking scumbags. So will crime in 18 years. Weird that this got leaked. CNN keeps repeating over and over how a leak anywhere near this level has never happened in SCOTUS history. Someone wanted this leak to stir things up before the midterms. It's either someone trying to warn people what's coming, someone trying to make sure no one does a Kennedy flipped his vote late in the Casey case and changed the outcome, or the court itself playing a PR game to see what public reaction to such a decision would be. Or it's just made up. Maybe it is, but honestly the writing for Roe was on the wall when SCOTUS decided Texas' probably unconstitutional abortion law could stand. They were basically saying they planned to overturn Roe v. Wade and the whole thing would become a moot point, conveniently informing us that they'd made up their minds even before arguments. Edit. I must admit, I really don't get Reddit or how this comment got so many upvotes greater than. By almost every metric, the boomer generation has left their descendants worse off. After enjoying affordable housing, education, a minimum wage they could live off of, expanded rights, they're taking it all away. This really isn't surprising at all. They are often fond of spouting that soft times create weak men create hard times, fascist crap. They always fail to realize they grew up in soft times and are creating hard times. That is their place in that supposed cycle. They occupied a relative paradise compared to what came before and what is emerging after in their wake. Horrified. This won't stop abortions, just safe ones. The infant death rate will go up, and maternal death rate will go up as well from this. And American infant and maternal death rates are already unusually high for a developed country as compared to the rest. I've been considering getting my uterus cauterized for a while now. I never want kids. Now this is just fuel for the fire to get this done. What sucks is that many doctors won't do that until a certain age because, what if you change your mind or your husband wants a child? Shut up and singe the tubes. Terrified. I live in one of the states that will immediately make it 100% illegal, and if I get pregnant, I'll die if it's not terminated. I try to get sterilized but nobody will do that for someone in their 20s, so guess I'm getting an IUD. Edit. Guys, I'm a lesbian. Birth control wasn't exactly my top priority. No, I wasn't just getting abortions left and right as a form of birth control, lol. I feel for you. I too have a likely chance of dying if I get pregnant. Even worse, the fetus would likely not reach viability. I can tell you there are doctors out there who will listen. I'm getting my tubes tied next week. Young, healthy, no previous births, did not want other BC options. Don't give up. There is a doctor willing to help. If you need someone to vent to about the system, I'm more than willing to chat about it. I hope you find a solution that works for you soon. I had an abortion at 21 that saved my life. It was a terrifying and isolating experience, and the best decision I have ever made. My cousin had to terminate her pregnancy in the second trimester due to the fact that the fetus developed without a brain. She described the care she received as what kept her alive through her grief. If abortion was not an option, she would have had to carry to term. I'm sick to my stomach over this. Women, especially women of color, are going to die. My grandpa was a gynecologist and had to deliver a baby without a head. This was a long time ago before ultrasounds were readily available. Absolutely horrifying, heartbreaking and traumatizing beyond words. No one should ever even think about suffering through that when we have other safer viable options available nowadays. It seems like they want people living in poverty to stay living in poverty. Only way to keep people desperate enough to be exploited the way that all of the giant corpus want to. They'd pay you nothing if they could get away with it. Rich people will continue to cheat on their husbands and wives, and their abortions will somehow mysteriously continue still be performed. Only poor people will be forced to carry children they can't afford and or didn't want. Which is exactly why I don't understand how any Republican seriously thinks it's a good idea, especially if they hate so-called welfare queens, food stamps, etc. Poor kids are more likely to grow up criminals they can ship into the for-profit prison system, or maybe they can be wage slaves their entire lives and keep Mr. CEO employed. I'm disgusted, yet unsurprised. The US government is like some kind of schizophrenic homeless man. It's an oligarchy that thinks it's a theocracy, that thinks it's a democracy. My father says he feels like he's in the 1970s again, and he has a point. America is back in space, there's an oil crisis, Russia is angry, and abortion is in the news. Add stagflation as well. Abortions will always be available for rich people. Making abortion illegal only hurts people who are poor and or of color. Safe abortions will continue to be available to the rich. Abortions will continue to be accessed, to varying degrees, by the poor, but they will come with greater risk to those who pursue them. Their argument will be used to question, and possibly appeal, women's access to birth control and potentially even gay marriage. A lot of religious objection involves life from conception. IVF clinics must be at the forefront, then. Insurance companies are second as to why they don't insure 6-week, or maybe now earlier, embryos thought to be people alongside born humans. Biblical law also does separate a miscarriage from a child in terms of lawful recompense. I'm an old man in the South. To the best of my knowledge, none of my partners have ever had an abortion. I don't want my daughters to ever feel they need to have an abortion. I fucking hate my country. That's how I feel. Take every right away from everyone that needs it and bleed us dry. If you want to be pro-life, then you better fucking be a foster parent and willing to adopt a child that someone doesn't want or can't take care of. I have 2 biological children and 1 adopted. My adopted daughter will never be referred to as anything but my daughter. Preach pro-life to me but not willing to do anything to make the world a better place. Fuck you and fuck this country. They don't give a crap about a child after it's born. If they did, then healthcare and whatnot would all be important to them, but they don't want to pay for someone else's healthcare, because they're fake, all of them. We are being ruled by an extreme theocratic minority in a country where its founding document explicitly says religion should not be in government. It's astounding hypocrisy.